Assassin's Creed 2 is on the list alongside RE4, MGS3, and ME1 of games that I have replayed a ridiculous amount of times, and therefore have an unhealthy amount of nostalgia for. The main difference is that I don't think I've put hands on this one since 2012. I do remember a few of my playthroughs back in the day having gimmicks, though. For instance, I played through the game in the Italian dub once, which changes approximately half of the voice dialogue. And in another run, I only used the hidden blade as much as I could. I forget the specifics though, so let's take a stroll down memory lane. I'll keep the English audio though. I'm well aware that most of you are only listening to this. So the rules are, hidden blade gauntlet only, and fists. The game's opening forces you to do fist combat for like 2 hours. It's super disappointing the modern day plotline of Assassin's Creed ended up how it did. The Templars won, but that's okay because the Templars and the Assassins were both the good guys, but couldn't agree on the correct way to do things, and then the gods screwed up. What a mess. There was perhaps 25 people alive who actually really liked the Abstergo plotline and wanted a game dedicated to it, and I was one of them. There are dozens of us, and boy, does it go nowhere. It's an unnecessary framing device designed to isekai a generic gamerman into a variety of historical settings. Ignoring the fact that games like Elder Scrolls just don't even bother and drop you in cold, those games sell tens of millions of copies. Hello, Rebecca. I love you. Can I call you Becky? Am I moving too fast?
Sorry, can't talk now.
It's a simple trick, but this data space construction effect is pretty impressive even to this day.
Do you know what brings us here tonight? Viere de Pazzi.
Cottardo.
Your sister.
The rock hits Ezio on the left side of his face, and the scar he gets for the rest of his life is on the right side. Still bothers me. Combat's pretty... Whoops, game just crashed. Combat's pretty simple. It's actually a bit of a step down from the Batman or Mordor combat systems where you build a combo meter for a finishing move, but it's similar in that 95% of what you want to do is counter. Your guard is pretty impenetrable, and parry timing is incredibly loose. But to balance, you will have to counter enemies multiple times to defeat them, with one exception. More on that later. The game is so counter-focused you can press the head button to swear at the enemy in Italian. Not even joking.
È un duello, fesso. Prova a combattere. Sei morto.
This increases their aggressiveness, so you don't have to wait around.
I've no money for this doctor of yours.
Once I start free-running with Federico, I get a strong hit of the good brain chemicals. I am incapable of determining if this game is just absolutely incredible or if it's just the raw nostalgia frying my neurons. Maybe a bit of both. Still, more please, and keep it coming.
Come on, Tartaruga.
Owned.
It is a good life we lead, brother.
The best. May it never change.
And may it never change us.
The version of the game we'll be playing today is the official original PC port, not the Ezio collection. There's good news and bad news. Good news first. Performance and graphical presentation are pristine. It looks so good I went out of my way to capture it in 1080-60 for the first time, and the game runs so well I had the CPU to do so. The bad news? Plenty of it. You have to log into a twice-broken version of the Uplay launcher to play it now. The password recovery screen was served to me in Serbian, according to my auto-translate. The Uplay store linked to in the game's main menu can no longer access exclusive content like DLC and the Altair outfit, and actually hard locks the game if you try to use it. The game crashes sometimes, usually when entering combat. The good news is that the autosave is incredibly aggressive. The bad news is that the autosave is incredibly aggressive. So, if I lost footage like I did with the Red 9 run, reshoots wouldn't be possible. Thankfully that didn't happen. Also, controller support on this game is so awful I would be astonished if a human touched these default keybinds. Camera control is inverted and on the triggers, like we're playing the original release of Kingdom Hearts 1. You can't look up or down on default controls. The face buttons are jumbled, the pause menu is on R3. And while the default controls use the triggers and the D-pad, if you try to rebind anything to them, it just doesn't work. Why would a game that was built for consoles be like this? It took hours of fighting with the keybind menu to get everything in its right place, and I get it to be good enough, but if you're looking to do your own playthrough, be advised. There is a demon in this game's controller support. I'm really glad that I did like 4 hours of testing before I started the run. Now, before the sky falls, we spend a few missions with the fam. Tutorials mostly. Claudia's boyfriend has been cheating on her, so naturally we have a fist-fighting tutorial. It's difficult to explain exactly, but there's a certain unrefined edge to this cutscene's animations that I find irresistible. They're almost over-animated, as if to exaggerate for effect like a cartoon. I don't know if this is the last gasp of by-hand animation or the infancy of automated motion capture, but I love it.
I loved him. He should suffer for what he's done.
Maybe I'm reading too much into this, but I think Duccio's father told him to dump Claudia because he knew the family was about to be disgraced. He could also just be an asshole. I mean, he's an asshole regardless, but...
Ah! You broke her heart.
Ha! And now I'm going to break your face.
Round 1, fight!
Basta! Mi arrendo!
Stay away from my sister!
Petruchio tutorializes one of the game's collectibles, eagle feathers. The game is tight-lipped about what you get for collecting them, but there's roughly 500 trillion of them, and when you collect all of them, you get a cape that makes everyone attack you on sight forever. Definitely going down in history as the worst reward for an open-world collectathon. Petruchio has some kind of critical illness and is bedridden, but thankfully the disease won't kill him. It won't have time. Hey Ma, what's up?
Vaginas.
That's great. This Leonardo seems like a cool guy. Painting, anatomy, architecture. Almost like he's some kind of Renaissance man. Is that how you're supposed to grab a pigeon? It's almost violent. Uh-oh, everybody's going to jail. Can I put the sword back? So, using your fist against armed opponents actually isn't the worst. The damage is poor, but it pretty much ignores the concept of blocking. Downside? You can't counter weapon attacks with just your fists. Not yet anyways, it gets unlocked later. I love how Rodrigo emits a terror field, like there's always an ominous red light over his shoulder. Classic cinema. Kino, as the children say. Oh sweet, that actually makes my job easier.
Better run, boy. And fast.
Nah, I'd win. So this combat encounter is kinda scuffed. You're not supposed to even try to win, and every enemy has their counter frequency tuned up to 100. By the way, enemies can parry you in this game. But the consequences of them doing so are generally just wasting your time. I don't take damage when they do this, but I don't get anything either. At least for now, if I take damage at 1 pip of health, I get the pip back by just turtling for a second, so with enough patience I can weather down the enemy one by one. Not super easy since a lot of unarmed and defensive abilities are only unlocked much later, but much easier than you'd think. According to my footage, I was brawling in here for about 15 minutes, and every time I got the enemy count below 2, it would spawn in 3 more, so I just called it a draw and ran for the hills. After unlocking the blending mechanic, kinda important when you're permanently notorious, it's off to Leo's. Finally, the hidden blade. The exact mechanism of how these things are deployed seems like witchcraft. Probably because it is. This setting includes magic and all that, and the hidden blade is probably a fragment of Lost Eden technology, or something. Although much later Leo will make one of these things in 15 minutes in a closet with a box of scrap. But hey, he's just like that.
Perhaps this will help to clear your head. Ready to talk? What about now?
The audio in this game's cutscenes are not mixed correctly. The voice lines are very loud, but the sound effects of the guy kicking Leo in the stomach as hard as he can is almost inaudible, and I remember it being like this back on the Xbox. First taste is always free. Hiding bodies is technically a mechanic in this game, although practically speaking, I have never found the need.
See? Like it never happened.
Time for a demonstration.
I'll rip your entrails!
Avanti, mi stai annoiando.
The Hidden Blade has much more strict counter timing than any other weapon. It's really easy to attempt the parry too early and take damage, but with the proper execution, it's an instant kill rather than a damaging counterattack. A high skill, high reward weapon. It is also capable of performing normal attacks, although the damage is unbelievably poor, and that'll get pretty funny later. With just the base, unupgraded Hidden Blade, I can now decimate the Florentine Guard. At least for now. These next few missions are free real estate for this run because all you have is the Hidden Blade.
You!
Very subtle.
Sai, le armi servono a duellare.
If you can figure out exactly what happened here, you're a smarter man than I. Parry animations usually have full invincibility, although you're always vulnerable from behind, so maybe that took priority? Getting hit by arrows will also cancel any animation, which is annoying. You can't parry or block these big boys, at least not yet. Much later in the run it starts working for some reason. You might be wondering what the Hidden Blade's counter to them is. Well, it's this. That works on everyone, but the quick stepping in this game isn't an exact science in multi-enemy scenarios. You know, every single fight in the game. A lot of escort quests in this game. That and some tailing missions, kind of a fatal flaw. Escaping the city is trivial as long as you have purged your notoriety. You can just walk past guards. The only obstacle is the blockade at the city gates, and thankfully, the Florentine Guard doesn't adhere to a code of conduct.
Here, use this!
No thanks. In situations where enemies are in combat with allies, you can just wipe the floor with them using the blade. It's actually kind of sad.
Keep the sword, Ezio.
No, take it back. For the love of God, take my sword, please.
Don't you recognize me?
Uncle Mario.
Uncle Mario gets us all tucked in his haunted mansion and settles us up for some combat training. Quick step training is no issue. Counter training is... oh god, oh no. The sword is equipped and the weapon wheel is disabled. I can sheathe the sword, but I can't swap to my fists or the blade. It's impossible to die here, but I can't progress without using the sword. It's a tutorial, not exactly a test of skill, so I'm just gonna roll with it. Thankfully, freestyle training with Mario lets me just clock him. Before leaving for the assault on Tuscany, I stop by the ring one more time for a special move. Pocket sand. Well, it's not for my pockets, it's regular sand.
Take these throwing knives. Use them to dispatch the archers.
Don't worry, that's just a suggestion. There's that Rodrigo mood lighting again. Must be pretty convenient to exude such an aura of sheer malevolence that you always have enough light to read in bed. Take a good look at Vieri and Francesco here. They're father and son. Would you believe that, according to the database in-game, these two are only 10 years apart in age? The ledge assassinate isn't unlocked yet, and neither is the jumping assassinate, so the best I can do is tap Vieri on the back to start combat.
Pezzo di merda! Vorrei solo che avessi sofferto di più! Hai avuto la fine che meritavi! Spero che brutto!
Ah, what a language.
He's making me work!
Okay, so now we've unlocked the finance side content. Every 20 minutes on the dot, a certain amount of money falls into a coffer for us to collect. The amount is dependent on how much we've restored the shops and stalls in the village, and how many collectibles and MacGuffins we're displaying. Pretty much everything you get in the game contributes some small value to this counter. From assassination targets and paintings purchased to gear and eagle feathers acquired. I guess the villa sells tours to rich city folk or something. Come in, come in. 5,000 florins to look at my collection of top-secret assassination weapons and the list of all the people I've killed. The bulk of the money, around 70%, comes from paying money to improve the buildings. Gotta spend money to make money. It takes a while to pay for itself, though. There's substantial investment rewards for having all the shops improved all the way and having all the non-shops built. Doing so generates more equivalent investment value than we've put in, which is where the dividends come from. We'll start by improving the bank and reopening the mine. Still, I need to get my hands on some capital to get the ball rolling, and thankfully, I know just what to do. It's open world time. The small village in Tuscany that I just invaded is a good place to start. We'll hit up all the viewpoints, buy the treasure map, exhaust the treasure chests, and... oh, who am I kidding? The only serious way to make florins in this game that isn't just idling in the villa for 80 minutes at a time is by catching couriers. These red fellas run the instant they see you, and if you can lay a hand on one, it's a solid 1,500 florins. I do like how rewarding catching these guys is, but they have this bizarre habit of warping the laws of physics around them for good or for ill. Sometimes my body just glides off of them when I go in for a tackle, robbing me of a fair catch. Other times, Ezio redefines gravity in order to jump multiple times his own height, just so the tackle connects. I do depopulate the chests and such in Tuscany, but I'm mainly just screwing around, hoping for more couriers to spawn.
Your mama!
Chests drop anywhere in the vicinity from 200 to 500 florins, and they don't respawn. Not exactly breaking the bank. Oh, you mu- The counterpart of the courier is the thief. If they touch you, they take like 250 florins out of your pocket, and if you catch them, you get 3 times that back. A net gain of 500 florins. And that's what they drop if they don't pick your pocket first. They have a nasty habit of diving directly into a fight and knocking you over. Also, couriers and thieves don't have intelligent pathing. There is no direction they want to be headed or escape point that they have to reach. They just kind of hop around the rooftops like headless chickens. Pickpocketing isn't the best way to make cash, but it's easy. You bump into them and leave. Maybe it's just in my head, but the amount of florins in someone's pockets appear to be related to how wealthy they are. Someone in well-tailored clothes with a feather in their cap usually has like 15 florins, but if you grift someone in rough-spun tunic, it's like 3. Now that couriers are primed to spawn, I will instantly become distracted when I see the chevrons pop up and drop everything I'm doing to tackle them at all costs. Why? I don't know. The lizard brain just takes over. Number go up. Alright, Tuscany's zipped up. Time to cash out the chest and reinvest. With 16k I can max out the bank, build the gentleman's house, and dig the well. In retrospect, I should have just bought all the non-tiered locations first. Head to Florence to catch a few more couriers, and 30 minutes later I've got another 15k. We'll renovate the church, furnish the barracks, and establish the Thieves' Guild. I'm not entirely sure how the Thieves' Guild makes us money. I always assume a criminal underbelly is an active drain on resources. Maybe we're corrupt and taking a cut. Also, we'll make a small investment in the tailor and art merchant. Finishing all the non-shop locations provides a set bonus, so the income is finally cooking. Now it's time to settle in. The chest can hold up to 80 minutes of revenue at a time, and said revenue only accrues while the game is running, so I leave the game running and do chores for over an hour. I also watch some Olympic sport climbing, which happened to be on at the time. Feels appropriate. You know, this feels like a good time for an ad break. Unfortunately, I'm a failure and don't have sponsors, so you guys get off easy for this one. Interaction reminder? I don't know, I hate those things. Va bene. If you're keeping track, I haven't broken a profit yet, although it's getting close. Revenues go back into your local artists and healthcare. Blacksmith costs a pretty penny though. Have to wait on that one. You get discounts at these shops for investing in them. A sizable amount of savings of the blacksmith in particular. Would it shock you to learn that by endgame we'll have so much money that I won't even bother going back to base to buy stuff? I idle the game for another hour but forget to leave it full screen, so I actually don't get anything. This version of the game doesn't believe in borderless windowed mode, or windowed mode at all for that matter, and it completely pauses when you Alt-Tab. If I leave in any footage of the game freezing, it's because I tabbed out to obsessively check that I was still recording. Also, when I turned my controller on, it somehow started changing the volume of my PC every time I moved the stick. Haunted. I'll idle it another 40 minutes and come back to finish up the smithy. I remember this little monetary scheme taking a few days back at launch, but really it's just a single night of sitting around.
Salute, Ser Ezio. Shall we take a look at the list?
Probably tuned so that by not idling the game, you're just about done with property management by the time you're finished the main quest. Oh boy, the controller problem is back. If I press the start button, it alt-tabs the game. It completely goes away when I restarted the game. Must be a memory leak. There we go, real estate management over. Now all the money we get during quests can be freely spent. Spent on what? Well, I guess we can get more medicine and armor. Although, practically speaking, the only pip of health that matters is the last one, since it can take a shocking amount of damage and always regenerates. Plus, later in the game, you get the best armor set for literally free, which makes buying armor a complete scam, but hey, ain't nothing but something to do. In case you hadn't gathered at this point, the difficulty of this game is kind of for children. The autosave ensures you never lose any progress. There's a lot of safety mechanisms protecting you from death, which turn combat mostly into a game of don't make 3 mistakes in a row. There aren't any difficulty options, so the game has to make allowances for all possible skill levels. Few, if any, missions require perfect stealth, and escort targets can not only hold their own in combat, but can take a hell of a beating. It wouldn't be until Brotherhood that optional objectives would be added to missions to spice up the difficulty a bit without actually gatekeeping progress, and that's just another reason why we love Brotherhood here. I'm already thinking about doing a Hidden Blade run in that game. Equipment is not particularly worthwhile. Sword and dagger upgrades are inconsequential. Upgraded weapons just deal more damage per hit or counter, but as previously stated, if you can counter someone with the Hidden Blade, they just die. So that's not a selling point. The dagger has a rather poorly defined niche. I think its parry window is wider, but it does less damage. I can't remember. I never even had it equipped in this playthrough. You can pick up brooms off the ground and use them in combat just fine. I used to do it all the time. I would love to do a broom-only run of this game, but acquiring them reliably is not feasible. Climb any structure and you instantly drop the broom since it can't be sheathed. Now we get the lowdown on the codex pages and the assassin tombs from Luigi. The codex pages form a giant puzzle, or it would be a puzzle if the pieces weren't automatically placed in the correct position. Even with this minimal amount of pages collected, you can tell from the position and shape of Greenland up here that this is a map of the world. Or at least I can tell. It's 1480, so these people have never heard of the Western continents. They will in 13 years, but details would be vague. Wario has been trying his whole life to get the Armor of Altair, which is located behind this gate, which is locked with 6 magic discs hidden throughout Italy. To which I say, battering rams exist. Just hire like 20 peasants to hit it as hard as they can with a tree trunk. It'll give. Or hire a stonemason to chisel the walls out around the gate. It's literally inside your own house. It's your property. No one can stop you. There is nothing that has been built that cannot be destroyed. And if you're worried about the news getting out, 1, you can just kill them after they're done. You're an assassin. And 2, you literally fly a flag with the assassin's crest on top of your house. You moron. Back to Florence. A decoded codex page now unlocks the most fundamental Hidden Blade assassination techniques, and Leonardo pulls a second Hidden Blade out of his ass, meaning that we can assassinate 2 people at once. Also, the game states that the Hidden Blade gets an armor plate, which it says allows us to deflect weapon attacks, but I've been doing that for hours now. This happens a lot throughout the game. There's a lot of unlocks throughout the course of things, and some of them are fake and were things that you could always do, and some of them are very real unlocks that you should have been able to do anyway. Maybe this armor plate is why I couldn't parry the heavily armored knights to start but can later? I don't know. Notoriety sure is a mechanic in this game. Picking pockets or starting fights raises it, and if it hits 100%, all guards are hostile until you purge it down to 0% again. Reducing it is as simple as ripping down wanted posters whenever you cross them, although they're usually one story off the ground, so I don't know who's reading them. And when it's especially high, the game spawns corrupt officials for you to murder, which reduces it almost entirely. It never takes more than a minute to actually completely wipe the slate, but I guess I appreciate the concept.
Stay back! Don't make me kill you!
I'm starting to see why you turn to a life of crime, buddy. Cleaning up the codex pages and viewpoints when they're unlocked is important, or it just becomes too much. AC2 is the progenitor of the so-called Ubisoft Towers or map icon vomit trend, although the maps here strike an okay balance. Maybe that's just the nostalgia talking. My brain is still buzzing.
Leonardo.
Ezio, so good to see you. How can I help you?
Haha! You found another one!
Finally getting back to the task at hand, we make contact with La Volpe, the head of the Thieves Guild, and he leads us on a chase to test our parkour abilities. The entire soundtrack of this game is incredible from top to bottom, but the standout is called Venice Rooftops, which plays during racing missions such as this. It is an absolute masterpiece. The only bad thing about it is that you are, by default, doing your very best to hear as little of it as possible. Double takedowns can be a little finicky. These NPCs have names and backstories, so that means punching them out where I can. No promises. Why does this specific kind of lever make my stomach churn? Can't wait to figure that one out. I think you can catch this guy. I think. I don't know if I've ever done it. Then again, I thought you could dunk both Gigantes in RE4, so what do I know? The best way to learn about anything on the internet is to be confidently incorrect as loudly as possible. Hey, cut it out. Stop it. Alright, screw it. One assassin plate recovered. The rest can wait. No reason to rush them until they're all unlocked. Codex pages are coming along well. As a change of pace, it's our job to interrupt an assassination for once. Unfortunately, Francesco de Pazzi has plot armor, and therefore I can't counter his attacks, since that would result in instantly killing him. This is an issue I'll encounter in a few places. Certain enemies can be fought but have death protection, and that interacts with the hidden blade in bizarre ways. Oh boy, an escort quest. Actually chasing people and free running is kinda terrible. If you attempt to jump after them but they haven't cleared an obstacle, you just kinda fall. Not one of the game's strengths, and target priority is very poor, as you'll see over time. Why assassinate the mission target with a death from above when you can do it to a completely random and innocent guard? Now that Francesco is dead, we can talk to Lorenzo. About what to do next.
I've marked the Palazzo Medici on your map. In order to achieve 100% sync with Ezio's life, you should go exploring.
I don't even remember what the Templar layers are for. I remember getting one as a pre-order bonus from GameStop, but I think it just rewarded Florence, and not that much. So we won't be bothering with them today.
It's another blade design for delivering poison.
I forgot that poison was in this game. Since it's delivered using the Hidden Blade Gauntlet, I'm calling it legal for the run, but it's rather useless. It's completely discreet to administer, and it kills someone over the period of, like, 45 seconds. But during that time, they flail aloud... God damn it. But during that time, they flail around wildly. Why do I do this to myself? This mainly creates a distraction and potentially kills people, but I don't strongly advocate using it, and you'll see why. Another talk with Wario and another sparring session, although this time he's teaching me the disarm move. I've been able to attempt to disarm enemies for a while now, but it's always failed. So this kinda unlocks its function. This next mission unlocks smoke bombs. I will not be using them. Not a weapon per se, but if I did all of RE4 without grenades, I might as well do it here. I hadn't even thought about it until after the run, but in a few places I do throw coins on the ground. Maybe that's against the rules, but if using money is against the rules, then I'd have to start over and not buy anything. Yeah, whatever. Every time I get on a horse, the sword is auto-selected as my weapon. If you want to be a stickler, I accidentally smack one inconsequential guard with my sword, because the game swapped to it without my consent. But I'm not starting over from scratch, that would be dumb. It would be nice if I could restart a chapter or a checkpoint whenever this happened, but the game is terribly afraid of letting you roll back or destroy progress. Horses now terrify me. I can't remember if there's a section with forced mounted combat, as that would de facto require me to use the sword in a real combat scenario. I would love the ability to unequip my sword, and I think I remember that being an option in Brotherhood. Tune in next time? Oh boy, a tailing mission. This combat encounter is the introduction of spear soldiers. Intimidating, but they really don't mix things up that much. If you steal a spear and use a counter on them, you get an absolutely incredible, unique counter animation where you stab them in the face. Can't do that today, though. That's basically it for Florence. Off to Forli. So, my job is to swerve wildly and at high speeds in a wagon that had a busted wheel 30 seconds ago. It's about as fun as it looks, but thankfully I'm not required to use my weapon. Forli has this premium 7th gen feel to it, almost like all the soul and color was sucked out of it by a financial investor. It's just so gray. Never much like this place. Thankfully, it's just a stepping stone on the way to Venice. For now.
You will not get me, assassino! Back! What?
Gondolas are trash. They can manage a decent clip in a straight line, but they turn slower than an Anaconda with Class 4 D-rated unengineered thrusters. That's an in-joke for all 12 of my viewers who play Elite Dangerous. Nice. Ezio doesn't pass the vibe check to make it into Venice, but thankfully, Caterina Sforza is here to punch his V-card. You know, because Venice. Jokes aside, I imagine Ezio's V-card has a honeycomb pattern to it by this point in his life.
Everything all right?
Better than all right.
I absolutely love everything about these optional conversations with Sean and Rebecca. They're just likable characters, even if they are a bit cookie-cutter. As a main character, Desmond is too dry, and Lucy, while obviously meant to be waifu bait, was always a little too on the nose. So basically, it makes perfect sense to me the direction that the Assassin's crew has taken over the years. Although, spoiler alert, I'm not super thrilled that Sean and Rebecca end up together. Seems a little too obvious. I mean, they work together and they bicker. Perfect couple, right? As if they have no life outside of their jobs. Although, given the nature of their work, maybe they don't.
What are you, Desmond, a vegan? You'd be the first vegan assassin in history.
Rebecca is a vegetarian, by the way, and the kind to yell at people while they're eating a hamburger. Not the same thing, but, well, that line's a little goofy in hindsight. Assassins, as underground anti-establishment rebels, would be exactly the kind of people to adopt a non-conformist lifestyle choice. Really? I suspect half the assassin cells would be former mall ninjas and Wiccans who went too far down the rabbit hole.
What are you up to?
What am I up? Who are you, my mum? I've been running traces on the Codex pages, looking to see if any of them are still around.
Before this conversation, it had never occurred to me that they could just try and solve these puzzles in the real world, since the historical objects may still exist.
So, how's she treating you?
The translation software is still a bit laggy. You're probably catching the odd bit of Italian. Sorry about that.
No worries. Abstergo's machine wasn't perfect either. And the subtitles? Definitely a big plus.
Assassin's Creed 1 did not have subtitles. That was a pretty major complaint for 2008. This game basically mandated that subtitles be used because half of the English dialogue substitutes Italian for flavor, or to hide swearing. Not that this game glosses over swearing, almost immediately upon starting, it makes it clear that while language is tame in AC1, they got the pass from upper management to say the 4-letter words.
Fuck shit!
Fuck. Fuck.
Shit. Fottiti, bischero.
I normally swear like a sailor, but try to maintain a more civil script for viewability. Still, when the game is packed with the F word, there's only so much you can fucking do. The buildings outside this window are obviously Italian villas, and I'm pretty sure I saw Italian on a sign in the warehouse. Brotherhood, the best Assassin's Creed game, don't at me, confirms that we are in Italy right now. Since you can drive to and from anywhere in Europe in a car, I can only speculate that the Abstergo lab previously was in Italy. I think I also saw some Italian on the signs in the parking garage. But enough about that. Time to get laid. Whoa. Glad I'm capturing in 60 FPS. I doubt you could see that otherwise. Welcome to Venice, land of dead ends and inconvenient travel. It's a more difficult place to do anything in for 2 reasons. One, there's barely any hay or leaf piles around compared to Florence, which means that getting back down to street level is a pain. Additionally, about half the back alleys just lead to water and swimming is slow. Plenty of gondolas, mind you, but they are ass. Oh boy, an escort quest.
I'm better off on my own.
Wow.
An interesting concoction brought to me by a Turk merchant. Here, have a taste.
One quick mission to unlock the climb, jump, and we're back to the open world. One thing worth mentioning that was ironed out of the franchise by Black Flag is that you spend virtually the entire game with your finger glued to the high profile button. Under certain circumstances, you climb slower in low profile, so it stays on all the time.
Stay back! Stop!
Here's a demonstration of poison, by the way.
Strong, just like you.
Kinda underwhelming. Now we're doing 3 assassination contracts. Not much to see here. I try to poison one in order to get away completely undetected, but for some reason, every time I use it, everyone in the area code immediately zeroes in on me. This guy just falls to his death. Now to free 3 groups of thieves. Kinda feeling like busy work. Hey ladies, distract the spearman for me. Oh, I guess he's gay. Well, good for him. Jesus. Our contact's name is Hugo, which in the modern context is unfortunate. Remember when I said that there weren't any hay bales in Venice? Well, we have a second option to break our fall. Innocent people. Hired thieves are actually pretty excellent. They can keep up no matter how fast you go, and unlike the ladies, they don't instantly disband themselves if guards enter a 20-foot radius. Just don't look directly at them or their pathing will break. Alright, now we have to get 3 chests of armor. Another do 3 things mission. Hey guys, check out this bard's brand new dance style. Whoops. You alright there, buddy?
You have to show us some of your tricks, Senor. Getting out of here. This is too much. Be up here. Leave.
To hell with this!
Now we just have to kill some roof guards, no problems here. I just wish this game had the ledge assassination where you drag them off the roof as they die.
How can I repay you for your service?
Money's always nice.
Easy enough.
Oh boy, a tailing mission.
Bene. I must return to Roma.
Oh boy, an escort. Nah, this one's actually not that bad. You just have to wait for him to catch up sometimes. Pack it in, boys. They put up a fence. We will never conquer this obstacle that is normally overcome by teenagers on their way to school literally every day. I'm a pretty thin guy. I know that comes as a shock since I make challenge run videos on YouTube, but I used to literally squeeze between the posts of a fence on my way to school. Not exactly top-notch security. One of the worst things about Venice is that there is an east and west map, and if you want to get from one to the other, you must cross the Rialto Bridge or use a gondola. While there are fast travel stations, you can't travel between them within the same city. It's still sometimes faster to fast travel to a different city and then back to a different stand in the same city. And maybe you can tell, but the menus in the game run at like 14 FPS. The game is still running at 60 according to my Steam overlay, but they just aren't great. Does anyone actually like the flying machine sections? Great for trailers and E3 coverage, I suppose, but like the wagon section, it's kinda ass. So I gotta kill a bunch of guards to light the fires for this flight. If there's a stealthy way to kill all the archers who are staring directly at each other, I don't see it. Maybe smoke bombs, throwing knives. We don't do that here. I always get the route mixed up on my first try because I'm trying to fly by the minimap icons, and the correct route has a distance between two fires that is further than the minimap extends. And with that, the Doge is dead. Wow. Much assassinate. Very outdated meme. Now for the most contentious part of the run. Many among you have probably already seen this coming. In order to clear this tutorial, I must use the pistol. Here's the thing about that though. That's okay. The pistol is part of the Hidden Blade Gauntlet. A piece of the Hidden Blade assembly. Don't believe me? When we acquire the pistol, the game says, Hidden Blade Upgraded. On the weapon wheel, it is located next to the hidden blade in the same way that poison is. So, I'm pronouncing it run legal. Don't worry, I won't rely on it. It's actually kind of terrible. 6 shots total and each shot takes like 10 seconds to charge up. You can't use this in normal combat. It's actually objectively inferior to throwing knives, so I'm only using it where it's required. Or really funny.
Let's get away. Stay back, Momo! Get him! Go! Stay back!
Whoops. Time for more open world. The last significant portion of map just unlocked alongside the last Assassin Tomb challenge, which means it's time to get Altair's armor. This took under an hour, but boy did it drag. These dungeons kinda suck. Although I've hit every viewpoint in the game up until now, I still have like 20 left and can't for the life of me remember where they would be. I'll leave you in suspense for now. Another chase sequence, and they specifically disable the gun so that you don't just shoot them on a straightaway. Kinda contrived. Oh no, this is the room that made me hate those levers. Timer's not too strict, but if you land in the water, you're already cooked. Don't mind if I do. Oh, the church one. I hate this so bad. These timers are triggered via pressure plates rather than those levers, so you can't even refresh the timer once it started ticking if you mess up. Oh, the other church one. This one's alright, actually.
What have we done? Stop him!
Nothing to say about the one in Tuscany. It's so bland it almost defies memory. How did I miss that? I'm getting that awful feeling again. Okay, wait, where do I go from here? Backtrack a bit? Oh, there's a secret chest. That's no help. Can't climb up any of these walls. The waterway is blocked. What if I just try and shove my face through this grate? Oh, the first ever prompt in the entire game that you can dive underwater to go beneath obstacles pops up after you approach a gate that you would otherwise assume you can't swim through. Brilliant. There we go, Altair armor. I didn't need to do it, but I did. Why? I don't know. Now, back to our regularly scheduled main story quest. Since we just got the pistol, we now have to use it for a second tutorial, I just need to target this guy who's taking a hostage, and I can't move. I assumed I could prime the pistol and then focus on the target, but that doesn't work that way. Once you prepare the pistol to be fired, you're kinda locked in and can't move until you pull the trigger. Shoutouts to Naoto mains in Persona 4 Arena. What a weird restriction for a moveset. So, unfortunately, one lady dies before I actually get it right. This is one of 2 places where the pistol is absolutely necessary, 3 if you include the tutorial. Funny that such an inconsequential part of your kit is the only tool to have forced usage. Having a gun in the 15th century sounds really cool, so I guess they needed to push it as a power fantasy, but it's not great.
No church would agree with me, I realized, so I created my own. It may not be traditional, but men's hearts grow firmer in my care.
That's not how any of that works, and I'm pretty sure you'd be executed as a witch and a heretic, but whatever works for you, I guess. Anyways, now we enter the tournament arc, everyone's favorite. We have to win a golden mask in order to be invited to a ball. Step 1. Free running. Listen to that Venice rooftops blaring. Step 2. Grab-assing. I'm not even joking. This is about to get uncomfortable.
Mind if I join you? Can I trouble you for a ribbon? Hello.
Come stai?
Have anything for me, belle mie?
Yikes. Hey, was that a courier I just saw? It must have been the wind. Step 3. Oh, whatever. We gotta play capture the flag with an agile enemy. The game is tilted in his favor because he starts on the ground and I start on the rooftops, and I have no fast way down to the flag. My god, look at him go! I'm not even sure it's possible to catch him like that. Step 4. Fight Club. Oh no, whatever will I do without my trusty sword and dagger? Woe is me. Fun fact, when you disarm someone, it does damage, but that damage can't be lethal. We lose the competition due to bribery, but we just need to pickpocket the mask off of Dante. Remember, you can always pickpocket bards that are annoying you. It's always morally correct.
Have you gentlemen found the best ladies in all the città? Set a kiss for a maiden? Yum.
Well, that was jank as hell. During the party, we are instantly made notorious, but the game is so aggressive about spawning ways to get rid of notoriety that I can scrub 75% of it within 10 seconds by killing a corrupt official inside the party. Now for the last forced usage of the pistol. You have to assassinate this target using the gun, no other way. Hey, Dante, your ass is mine. Well, I'm sure that definitely killed him and he won't be back later. Tony, were you doing up your pants just now? Whoops. Buying the best chest plate removes the Altair armor. Oh well. Almost all the codex pages now. Not sure if I just missed one by accident or if one is only enabled in sequence 14. Sorry, buddy, but if you had better textures, you probably would have lived. Ladies, distract those prison guards. A lot of confirmed bachelors among prison guards, it seems. Bart is a pretty likable guy for the 45 seconds of screen time he has. Now we have to do another quest of doing 3 things in 3 places. I've distilled an elixir of lead and pomegranate, a somewhat famous line you see quoted here or there. Let's unpack that. The term elixir isn't as grand and magical as you might think. You've had an elixir in your life. You may be drinking one right now. The clinical definition is just a sweet liquid that has a medicinal purpose. Cough syrup, energy drinks, even Pepto-Bismol. The lead is easy. You might not know this, but lead tastes really good. It's actually kind of a problem. In the ancient to classical era, lead was used as a sweetener and preservative, particularly in wine. It was delicious and inexpensive. It's not so immediately poisonous that you keel over and die, but it certainly puts the high mortality rate from mysterious illness of those times into perspective. In the modern day, it's very similar to something like aspartame. Not necessarily trusted, but still ubiquitous. The pomegranate is harder. It's an antioxidant and has ascorbic acid. The doctor claims it's good for your liver, and he's not wrong. In all, it's basically a weekly medicated cup of sweet tea. Probably pretty fancy for the people of the time. Once again, we're doing 3 things in one place, and then doing 3 things in another. I'm sensing a pattern to Venice. I'll stop short of calling it padding, but on replay it does wear a bit thin.
Come, amici! I've fresh sheep's urine and rosemary poultices for your blood!
Okay, so the sheep's urine contains urea. This is actually a topical treatment for psoriasis and eczema, among other things. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say he extracted the urea for an odorless medical powder. The rosemary's medical properties are dubious, but would at least make it smell good. And yes, we all know that the leeches these guys peddle are actually bad for you. I'm not saying that the plague doctors have it all figured out. Leeches, bad. Live maggots, however, still used in medicine today, and not in holistics. Your hospital probably has a bucket of maggots not far from the trauma center. They debride necrotized skin from wounds and can be kept relatively sterile. God, I hope I never have to put up with that. Why am I talking about 15th century medical esoterica? The best way to learn about anything on the internet is to be confidently incorrect as loudly as possible. Well, in case you haven't noticed, the story has kind of not been going anywhere for the last 2 hours. Not a lot of progress being made here. Once again, Dante's plot armor protects him from the hidden... Check your fire, man. Riveting. Oh hey, is that a straightaway? When the guards put up a barricade, you can just tackle through it. Aw. Nothing new here, just a straight fight against the man himself. Finally, things are picking up. From here, it's a full court press straight to the end.
Well done, Ezio! Silvio is defeated, and the military district is returned to us!
Oh, is that what I was doing? Did I care? Oh boy, a tailing mission. Aww. One of the world's most important relics, the prize of the Templars, and it's in the hands of some random agile city guard, and he's free-running across laundry lines carrying it. Brilliant. Would be weird if this happened twice. Alright, Rodrigo, here's your Uber Eats. 1 apple, that'll be $15 plus markup plus tip. What a nightmare we live in. Can't disarm him. That's unfortunate. Often referred to as a corner trap infinite in fighting games, this maneuver is the ability of the player to use the geometry of the level to force an opponent into an unrecoverable position in which nothing they do can prevent them from dying due to the player's ability to extend their combo long enough that they deplete the enemy's health bar before it can naturally end. This is where I discover that you can parry spearmen with the hidden blade. Wish I'd known about that sooner.
To die. I just killed them to make a point. There is no mercy when you cross the Temple.
Dude, come on. When you do that, all I can do is swear Italian at you. Isn't that a fate worse than death? Finally, we meet Machiavelli. Now, Machiavelli was a Florentine. You may wonder why we didn't meet him during the early stages of the game in Florence. Well, he was 7 at the time. Even in this scene, he's only 19. Knowing that, it's pretty bizarre for him to be officiating Ezio's induction. This is where the game has a big old time skip, and multiple sections of memory are skipped over due to being corrupted. At launch, it definitely gave the game a sort of incomplete feeling. I wouldn't call this game rushed, but it did feel like it was cut up for time. Nothing wrong with skipping to the end, though, and going straight from joining the Order proper to throwing down with the Pope is perfect for pacing. It's funny that Leonardo is the only person who doesn't have his brain melted by the apple because he's smart enough to understand what it's telling him. Wait, why am I in Forli? Oh, God! Okay, so the official PC client came with the repaired memory sequences packaged in as main story progress. I just went from 30 minutes to the credits to God knows how long. Oh boy, an escort quest. These DLC memories are not well liked. The short version of Sequence 12 is that it's a lot of combat. Boy, is it a lot of combat. Lady, what are you doing? I'm glad that I'm taking the Apple of Eden to be stored safely in a citadel that was breached in an afternoon. These guys in purple are bad because they threaten to kill children. That's about the size of it. I hand over the apple that I've been carrying without a problem so far, and while I'm rescuing the children, it's stolen.
What? No!
Wow, good job. So now I have to retrieve the apple. Oh no, not a horse chase. Screw it, I'm running. Oh my god, does this go on forever? Alright, horse. Nope, he stops here. Stupid horse auto-equip. That's 2 swings now. I get briefly turned into a pincushion in this fight. I forgot that arrows cancel counter animations, which are otherwise fully invulnerable. Ooh, that'll leave a mark. Oh, I'm so glad that throughout this chapter we've done nothing but dial back progress we've already made. The lighting is screwed up in Forli. Ezio looks like a corpse. Ah yes, the map to all 1 remaining codex page. That makes it all worth it. There's another mission left in Sequence 12. We go and find a monk and he tells us who the monk was that stole the apple. Thrilling. On to Sequence 13. I try and bypass the mission in Sequence 13 by just going straight to the codex wall, but after a quick Google search I determined that the repaired memories are now mandatory. What fresh hell is this? The good news is that the DLC added a new district of Florence. The bad news is everything else. The Medici Cape isn't working anymore, and the new district is only accessible over a bridge, just like Venice. The monk has used the influence of the apple to seize absolute power over the city. Oh boy, an escort quest. Is that 9 consecutive assassination missions? Oh, Ezio, why? This guy on the bridge is so locked down by security, I'm not sure how you're supposed to get him by stealth, while also permanently notorious. Just stab him. These missions actually bugged out pretty consistently. They say you're supposed to become anonymous after the assassination, but I got halfway across the city and one of the guards was still aggroed, so I had to run back and kill him. See what I mean about target priority? This next target is nestled his ass right up against the most impenetrable part of his ship and posted guards everywhere. For no particular reason, being discovered in this mission is an instant game over. It takes me quite a while to figure it out, because there is legitimately only one way to do this. You have to assassinate this guy on the rooftop, and then this guy on the dock, but you have to watch the guard's walk cycle to time it right and hope you get an opening. Ledge assassinate the patrolling guards at the rear of the aft castle and... Wait, the drag down assassinate is in this game? Does it have to be over water? It's so much more powerful than the one where you jump up and stab them. Anyways, stab the 2 guys, then stab the other 2 guys, then stab the main guy. There's a long list of 10-year-old posts online raging about this mission. It's not that bad. It's actually the only mission so far that actually requires stealth. If you haven't been keeping track, this has mostly been a combat game with some racing elements. It's just that this mission comes at a really inconvenient time for expecting the audience to care. Next mission is similar, but easier. You can't alert the guards, but this guy is just walking out in the open. This target is a free run race. Amazing. Another stealth mission. Climb the cathedral all the way to the top without being detected. Kind of a cakewalk. This guy lures you into a kill zone, and then rather than pulling up the ladder and shooting you to death, he sends goons down for a fight club while he monologues. Hey, I beat up all your dudes. You gonna come down here? No? Okay. He's literally all talk. Alright, last target. I'm getting tired, guys. I thought I'd have beaten this game over an hour ago. You ever seen that bit in Indiana Jones where there's a cool boss, but Indy's just tired and doesn't want to deal with it? Well...
Why fight? Why refuse?
I'm so tired I actually let a courier go. This is how bad it's gotten. I don't realize that there's a quick time event in this cutscene, so my main man Nick throws the dagger instead. That works out, actually. And now the apple is in the hands of an agile city guard. What, again? Wow, so climactic, snatching the holy relic back from the hands of an unnamed guardsman. What a thrill. Well, we assassinate the bad man even though he's being burned at the stake, and Ezio gives a big speech. It's mostly platitudes. The appeal to emotion kind of falls flat. This game is better for not having these two sequences. Finally, we're off to sequence 14. I just need to collect that last page.
Hold on. It looks like Ezio has a map on him. He must have picked it up during one of the corrupted sequences.
Lucy, we just... Never mind. Here's a little something I forgot. You can actually upgrade your unarmed strikes for more damage by buying a metal cestus. I didn't, though. I said fists only, and I meant fists only. Not that it's going to matter.
It is a map of the entire world, but there are lands shown here that do not exist.
The year is 1499 at this point. Columbus has returned from the west, on top of which an assassin was with him on the journey. Although I suppose they wouldn't know what the Americas look like, they do know they exist.
The papal staff is the second piece of Eden.
Kind of a massive jump in logic, but I can dig it. Welcome to Rome. You can't see much of it, you have to wait until Brotherhood for that. Bunch of guards on these walls, and you have to hit some levers positioned in places guaranteed to get their attention. Think you can stealth it? Maybe, but it's pointless since the middle is a forced combat section. Oh no, please anything but a horse. I'm alright with this. Remember to re-equip your hidden blade, dumbass. Alright, I guess you all want to die. And now it's a forced stealth section. I feel like this should have been before the forced combat section. Say goodnight, Rodrigo.
I don't think so. You cannot stop me!
I've never watched JoJo, so I don't care how inaccurate those splash screens were. Honestly, JoJo is so entertaining to see from the outside that I almost don't want to watch it just to maintain the mystique. So basically you mash on him until he dies. You can't disarm him, you can't counter him with the hidden blade. He has 1 billion points of health, but there's really nothing he can do once you get him in the pattern. What, again? I just fixed this stomach.
No more tricks. No more ancient artifacts. No more weapons.
No more judo, and no more field strips.
Round 1, fight!
Oh no, a fist fight, my one weakness. Here, Rodrigo, chew on some pocket sand. This is the one place where this ability is actually useful. Not technically done yet, but there's a last-second surprise. Yep, even in the modern timeline, you use the hidden blade. Unfortunately, Desmond doesn't know Italian. It's not possible to die or use other weapons here, so the run is basically over. Hey, is that William Chip Beeman? That dude's credited in everything. So, sum total, I screwed up and swung the sword twice. Thanks a lot, horses. There's one tutorial where you have to use a sword. There's 3 areas where you have to use the gun. I used the gun 2 more times than I really needed to, don't at me. And the fists are mandatory for a large part of the game. At the start, once during Carnival, and again at the very end. I don't remember much about Brotherhood, but it happened to be on sale for $5 when I was making this video, so maybe I'll do a run of that too. Come on, I'm dummy thick. How can you miss?